Hi guys, it's Seb here from the review podcast from the League One Lowdown. Just jumping on quickly to say, don't forget to subscribe to the League One Lowdown YouTube channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers and we could really do with your support. All you have to do is just go on to our YouTube channel page and press the subscribe button. It really is much appreciated from myself and the rest of the boys. Thank you very much for watching this video and hope you enjoy the rest of our content.
Hello and welcome to the League One Lowdown here on the Det Network. As always, you're joined for your preview show / review show this week with the final round, full round of midweek fixtures with me and Sam. Sam, good Wednesday evening for you. Maybe not a great one.
Yeah, you had to say it, didn't you? I was kind of hoping we would gloss over the Orient result. I put in our chat, do I actually have to present this week's show?
Unfortunately
for myself, yes. And I'm sure we'll get on to Orient as well as the rest of the League One action a bit later.
Just a few bits of admin. We'll talk about last night's football. Look away now, Huddersfield fans, because Smugface is back. In the show we'll go over Tuesday night's action if you're watching this on Thursday or Friday, looking ahead to the weekend, and then in the second half of the podcast, as always, we'll look ahead to another full round of fixtures around the country for League One. A couple of bits of admin before we get going. As Seb said at the start, remember to subscribe, like, comment, whatever it is that you like to do. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. We're trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers on YouTube as well before the end of the season. We've got a bit of a rivalry with our sister podcast as well, Fourth Tier Fever. We're going to make sure for League One's sake, let's pull together and make sure we hit that 1,000 subscribers first. And also, we've got an upcoming live stream for the Easter fixtures. It all gets a bit messy again, doesn't it, with the games here, there, and everywhere. That's coming up on the 16th of April, so in 2 weeks' time. Pop it in your calendars. You won't want to miss it. It'll be a lot of fun, a bumper episode for sure. And something that I usually look forward to this part of the podcast, it is squeaky bum time in the predictions league, Sam.
Yeah, so I had a very strong last Saturday. I got 13 points. I got 3 correct scores, 4 correct outcomes. So I had a very nice Saturday. You didn't do as well on the Saturday, but still got 2 correct scores. So in hindsight, between us, we did rather well last Saturday. And then on Tuesday, I got 6 correct outcomes. You got 4 correct outcomes, but you got the correct score in there. So you got 1 extra point than me on the Tuesday. So the new totals, you lead by 11 points. So I'm 4 correct scores away from you with 6 match days to go. So I'm putting the Lincoln City shirt on sale at the moment. On hold at the moment, because I put in our chat last week after I think you got the early kickoff right. Last Saturday, I mocked you. City shop, didn't I? And I was like, well, I might as well just buy it now. But it's back on hold after a strong showing with the 3 o'clockers.
We'll wait and see how that goes. Not many games left. I think most teams have only got 7 or 6 games on it. A couple have got 8, but I think there's only 7 or 6 game weeks left. So we're getting to the real business end of the season. That included a full run of fixtures yesterday. We'll start with Burton Albion, really, who I think I was looking at the scores at half time, and it was one of them where it looked settled. It looked like Crawley maybe were the best chance of getting out of it, but Burton Albion pulling it back, coming from behind, 2-1 win against Leyton Orient. It's now 2 wins in 3 for them. Only that defeat against Stockport County, 2-1 defeat against Stockport County. Maybe we all wrote Burton Albion off a bit too soon. They've still got that all-important game in hand as well over Bristol Rovers, which if they win, they will go ahead of them because of their much better goal difference.
Yeah, the job Gary Bowyer has done there. They were talking about it on commentary, and I was really confused what the commentator was actually trying to say. Like, he's gone in at Burton when they were near enough rock bottom, and we all thought they were gone. Regardless of what they've done the past 2 or 3 years, we all thought they were gone. He's come in, and to be honest, by all accounts, even if they do go down, he has done a fantastic job to even give them a glimmer of hope of survival. And the commentator was like, oh, they probably expected him to do better. I mean, he's won 7 games. I think he's drawn 6 and lost 9, which is mid-table form, realistically. And the performance last night, There was a lot of mistakes from Burton, a lot, but that is because they're a team fighting for their lives, and that's why I expect mistakes, I expect nervousness, and that's what happens when you don't capitalise on chances. For Orient's sake, they scored a really good goal, second goal with Charlie Webb. Charlie Webster hit in both posts, and Ruben Burrell tapped it in, which was a really... Charlie Webster was the standout player. Absolutely outstanding. Max Crocombe made an excellent save in the last minute. I've always said Max Crocombe is one of the best shot stoppers in League One, but with his feet, he's terrible. So, which is probably why he's at a club, no offence to Burton, like Burton, who don't play out from the back and just need a goalkeeper to actually be able to use their hands. On the topic of goalkeepers, I have a little trivia question. See if anyone can get this in the comment section down below. Which League One goalkeeper makes the most saves per 90 minutes? And I'll give you the answer once we've finished our review of Tuesday night. But for Burton, they're 3 points, as you say, now from Bristol Rovers, with that all-important game in hand next Tuesday. And I wouldn't put it past them winning that game in hand. They're a team that are full of grit, full of determination. And to be fair, they create a lot of chances. Dodgson was absolutely outstanding yesterday. Charlie Webster, outstanding. And JJ McKiernan as well. Absolutely excellent for Burton. So, they do look a team that is scrapping for their lives with the mistakes and the nervousness, but a team that does have goals in there that could pull them out of the situation they're in.
And for Orient, I was going to say, I think at one point you were in the top six. The thing is, the way results went yesterday, it could have been a much worse for Leyton Orient. It does feel very much like it's a scrap for sixth now, though. Yeah,
there's Bolton, Reading, Huddersfield, who we'll get onto later. I've always said about Blackpool, I said, 6 weeks ago, Blackpool are my tip for a late charge. Only defeat in their last 5 was to us, and they should have won that game. They're now above us, funnily enough, as well, on 60 points, but they have played that game more. 3 points off the playoffs now. So they're the team to watch. They've got an experienced manager. They've got experienced players. And it's a very Blackpool thing to do, to go on a late charge at the end of the season. And then if you get into them playoffs on a run like Blackpool are on, you would back them in the playoffs. Niall Ennis has gone in there and been outstanding. But for Orient, 3 defeats in 5. The last 3 performances have been rather concerning. We've played well a lot for most of this season. Like I think of the Birmingham and Bolton games at the start of the season where we lost them. 2 games ago against Blackpool, and the last game against Stevenage, we were really poor, but we've managed to grind out and get 3 points. But we just forgot how to play. We scored a decent goal with Dan Adji. Good work by Charlie Callum after a mistake in the Burton midfield. But other than that, it looks a nervous performance. We scored it and then had a fear factor about us. No one could string passes together. Definitely missed Ethan Galbraith, and we've definitely now missed an opportunity to, even if we got a point, it's not a bad point because our goal difference is very, very decent. And that's where I think with a young squad, when you're missing people like Omar Beckles, as an experienced leader in that, Jack Simpson as well, you're missing experienced players who we can grind out a result a bit more. Where you've got a younger team, it's a lot more difficult. So I do think the chances not gone, but it's going to be an uphill battle considering we've still got to play Wycombe. And regardless of how bad Huddersfield are, we've still got to go to Huddersfield on the final day.
So it's worth going through the teams from 6th to 10th. Bolton at 63 points. They beat Wigan Athletic 1-0. Reading, they lost 3-0 to Blackpool, who are in 9th. Reading a point behind Bolton. Blackpool in 9th. They're on 60 points with that 3-0 win last night. Huddersfield sandwiched in between them. Obviously, we all know they're still waiting to appoint a manager, but back-to-back defeats now. Not as comprehensive against Lincoln City, but I think a very sweet victory for Imps fans for reasons we'll touch on in a moment. And then Leyton Orient 10th on 59 points. So 4 points covering 6th to 10th. It's a proper scrap. Dare I say, I don't want to discount Huddersfield from it because they are 2 points. It would be a very Huddersfield thing to get the momentum going into the final couple of games. But yesterday they looked like they just ran out of ideas. If you can frustrate this, it looks like this Huddersfield town side is very one-dimensional, which is really frustrating because, Lincoln City fans, I think for us yesterday, we expected Huddersfield to run all over us. I mean, we know Lasse Sorensen and Joe Taylor were our two players of the season last year, effectively. Arahan is also up there, but Sorensen and Taylor, two of the best players from last season. We know what they can do, and they're just not doing it in that Huddersfield town side for whatever reason it is. They're not being used correctly. I think that was frustrating, but also I think Lincoln City just expected a lot more from Huddersfield Town, so that's my worry about them. Reading, our worries about them have been very heavily documented. They feel like they will run out of steam at some point, but with 7 games to go, it doesn't look like they will. It more than likely looks like the finances, as well as they've done to play around them this season, might be what comes back to bite them. And Blackpool, I'll be honest with you, I said it on our WhatsApp chat last night. I don't know how they've got there. Because it does feel like they've come out of nowhere. Like 2-1 win against Cambridge, you expect. Defeat against Blackpool. And then these 3 wins in a row, they're the only team in that pack to have won all 3. You've got Reading, who have drawn 1 loss. Bolton, lost, 1. Leyton Orient, won 1, lost. They're the only team that have converted, have got 9 from 9. I think they're the only team in the whole division that have done that, actually, which is incredible. But I feel like I've not been paying attention to Blackpool because I kind of wrote them off. But dare I say they are the form team? But I don't think they are. Do you know what I mean?
No,
I know what you mean. I'm not excited by them. Like, it's really weird. They're winning games, but not excitingly. But you don't need to do that.
They're the most informed team in the last 6 in League One. 1-5 and lost 1 because Birmingham did lose that game to Bolton.
I wouldn't complain with the stats. It just doesn't feel like it. Do you know what I mean?
It feels like they've drawn, because they have drawn, but they've drawn so many, and they're now finding that way to get the grind out, that extra bit of performance to win a game now, which I think stems from the manager, in all honesty, as well. They've got quality players by all means, but that also stems from a manager who knows and has managed at the top level. Like Steve Bruce has got I think he's got over 1,000 games in management as Steve Bruce. Near enough all of them are from the Premier League or the Championship. So they've got a manager that shouldn't, let's be real, I know he's a dinosaur in inverted commas, but they've got a manager like the players will respect a manager like Steve Bruce. Like, he played at the top level, he's managed at the top level. And them sort of mentality things come into players, if that makes sense. Like, there's no pressure on Blackpool at all. I know they're a big club for the level, but there's no pressure on them. Nobody expected them to even be in this sort of position. Steve Bruce has made them incredibly difficult to beat, especially at home. And we're all sat there, like you said, we didn't really take note of Blackpool until yesterday, really, when we thought, oh, they're 3 points off. Like I've been saying that they could get the playoffs, but they were like, at the time, they were like 10 points off. And all of a sudden, we're looking at them like, oh my God, they're 3 points off. They're like, their home form is like the 14th best, I think, in the league. They've got 11 draws at home, but they've only got the 3 defeats. So it's strange, is Blackpool. Even more strange is Huddersfield. Like you said, I think the problem Huddersfield have had a lot of the season is injuries, especially in defence. Defence isn't an area you want to change, and they've had to. The forward line has also had injuries. I think they personally shouldn't have sacked Michael Duff, in my opinion. I think he was hard done by. I personally just think with the amount of injuries, chopping and changing every week is not ideal. Like, we know in League One, you need a consistent selection. Unless you're a club like Wrexham, probably Wycombe at the moment, Birmingham, Charlton, where you have this depth of 2 players per position that are all League One quality, you could probably do it. But I don't think Huddersfield, regardless of their stature, are like that. Especially in terms of personality and ability of player. So I do think Duff has been very harshly treated, and that's been proven. Worthington's come in, I think, from their youth setup. He smacked Crawley and then has proceeded to lose the next 2. So nothing's really changed at Huddersfield. And I said this at the start of the season, I don't think their summer recruitment was good enough. They had too many players who have been on this journey with them of 3 years in a row of a losing mentality. We've got into League One and now everyone expects them to win. And they've had these runs, haven't they? At the start of the season, they were really good. Then they dipped off. And we always said when they lose 1, they're going to lose 2 or 3 in a row. And that has been proven throughout the season. They're so up and down. And it's now got to a point in the season where they could fight for playoffs. But I don't think the players believe they can do it, regardless of the quality they've got in that squad.
We should look at the top 5 as well. A 3-0 win, convincing win for Stockport County against Stevenage. Not really a lot to say there, other than I think Stockport County scored more goals than I expected them to against Stevenage, who we know are stubborn in defence. A 2-1 win for Charlton. Mansfield Town felt like they really had to grind that one out as well. 74th minute winner from Gamble there. Again, they could make a late run for second, especially given a 0-0 draw for Wycombe against Shrewsbury and a 2-2 draw for Wrexham against Cambridge United, and Birmingham City winning again against Bristol Rovers. That a real banana skin, you think, for Birmingham City. I'm not gonna get bogged down in my comments about Birmingham City, but it's a Jay Stansfield penalty. For what Birmingham paid for him, you'd expect him to be scoring penalties in League One, and that's that comment done. They're 89 points. They're 11 points clear now. I don't know when the earliest they can seal the title is.
3 weeks, 3 match days.
It's not long, is it? So
one thing
I've still got those 2 games in hand as well. So
the only thing I'll say about Jay Stansfield, I think he's taken 9 penalties this season, and I think he scored 8 of them. It still takes a big pair of balls to step up for a penalty, especially in that scenario of the game where they could have drawn. And he got another vital 3 points, and it looks like they're well on their way. They're 9 points clear, 2 games in hand over with Wrexham, and they've got their nice Wembley trip next week, and they've secured a playoff place at the minimum now. So they can lose every single game, and everyone else wins. They still get a playoff place. So
I don't think Birmingham fans would be too happy with 5th place in League One, though.
Not now.
You'd imagine not, but no. Fair play to Birmingham City. They are a class above the rest. I don't think there's really much else you can say. I think that's pretty much every game covered. Northampton Town losing 2-0 to Rotherham. They're looking over their shoulder now, because if Burton win that game in hand, they're in a lot of trouble. And talking about potential games that, dare I say, what could have been for Crawley Town, 3-4 against Peterborough United, and Odo hat-trick. I'm sorry, Odo hat-trick in 20 minutes from the 22nd to the 42nd minute, and then a Ricky J. Jones winner in the 97th. And then just a game to mention, Exeter City beating Barnsley 2-1. That's their playoff hopes well and truly snuffed out. Sam, I'll let you have your pickings from those games.
I'm going to pick Northampton out and Crawley. Northampton versus Rotherham, because Steve Evans obviously was sacked last week. It seemed the pressure's sort of been lit, because Northampton, as we know, are not a bad team, especially at home. And they're a very difficult side to beat under Kevin Nolan, and that's proven by the amount of draws they've actually got under Kevin Nolan. Rotherham have gone there. They've eased their relegation fears, I think, because before the game they're on 45 points. There is still fears that they could get dragged in, especially if they lose that game. But they've gone there, put a professional performance in and win. And then for Crawley, it was all looking so rosy. The form of one man at Crawley has completely revitalised, I think, their season. In Kamari Doyle came in January, and he's been absolutely outstanding. Started the season at Exeter, got a move to Crawley, and especially since Scott Lindsay's came in, he's been arguably one of the best midfielders in League One, to be honest. He's scoring goals, he's providing assists. And if Crawley had held on, it is a shame they didn't, because our relegation battle will be extremely interesting. But at the moment, as it is, 6 points from safety now, Crawley. Could have been 3, and that would have really piled the pressure on a fresh face at Bristol Rovers, really. His first managerial job in Inigo Calderon. They've lost 4 in a row as well now, Bristol Rovers. And we're all sitting here. We all thought, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago, relegation battle, won't be Bristol Rovers. They'll all be fine. Their home form's too good. And they're slowly have just kind of fell apart. I know they've got injuries in the front line, but they're in serious danger. And I know they've got players on bigger wages as well. So that's one to watch towards the end of the season. They've got no momentum behind them as well. Yeah. So that's definitely one to watch going into the end of the season.
You can just thank Lincoln City for knocking the stuffing out of them. Again, what can I say?
And then finally on Peterborough, they've obviously got their Wembley trip next week against Birmingham. Since they beat Wrexham, they did that amazing comeback in the EFL Trophy, 1 defeat in 9. And they've pulled straight up the table. And we've always said, like, a young team does sort of take time, especially when they chop and change their squads every year. And they kept faith with Ferguson. I think fair play to them. They're rewards have been shown, so to speak. They're in a comfortable mid-table, a trip to Wembley, and they're going to probably start building for next season. And they've got to try and keep hold of Kyprianou, who's out of contract in the summer for next season, their captain. Other than that, I think it's looking a lot rosier for Posh.
It's one of them. I think the players just needed a stable environment to develop. We're going to move on then to the preview section of this podcast. But as I remind you to make sure you like this episode and subscribe, Sam will give us the answer to that trivia quiz he dropped at the start of the episode.
Yes, the trivia answer question is Josh Griffiths of Bristol Rovers. He makes the most saves per 90. He makes at least 4 saves per 90, which doesn't sound a lot, but in the whole course of a season, 4 saves per 90 is quite a lot. So he is the winner of most saves per 90.
You'd imagine if they didn't have him in net, the situation for Bristol Rovers would be much, much worse. Moving on then to Saturday's game, 2 12:30 kickoffs. One of them very interesting towards the top of the table, Reading against Wycombe. We'll come on to Wrexham against Burton Albion as well in a moment. But Reading against Wycombe, for me, it's a game that both sides need to bounce back. Wycombe dropping points against Shrewsbury. When they played Lincoln City last weekend, okay, they got the point, but that, it wasn't a very convincing. That was just down to a player error. It feels like Wycombe have just stopped scoring at the minute. They're not making the most of their opportunities, and they're coming up against a Reading side that I don't want to say is entirely free scoring themselves, but they hit 3 last time out. Well, when they played Peterborough at the weekend, goalless against Blackpool, but Reading can score goals.
They can, especially at home. We've mentioned their home form numerous times on this podcast. 4th best home form with only 3 defeats, and they've scored first in 4 of their last 5. Wycombe are still the top away scorers though, with 40. They seem to be better away from home than they are at home in terms of attacking football. But alarmingly, since Dodds has come in, which is around 9 games now, they've had less than 2.5 goals in 8 of their 9 games. And we, especially towards the first probably 2/3 of the season, we were looking at Wycombe as the league's entertainers alongside Peterborough, really. At least 3 goals every single game. But that's not happening. He's gone in and seems to have made them a bit more rigid, especially in the final third. I saw some people questioning some of his decisions at the weekend, not necessarily last night, because it seemed Richard Kone missed a 1-on-1 and they just couldn't finish their dinner last night, which does happen. But in these pressure scenarios, when everything is so close, when you're 3 points off second place with that game in hand, a win could have made, they could have been 3, they win the game in hand, they're 3 points clear. The table's flipped on its head near enough, so to speak. And 12 of Wycombe's 40 away goals have come in the 90th plus minute. So they do go to the end, Wycombe. There is a lot of character in that squad. But in the Wycombe episode where we spoke with one of their fans last week, which is up on the channel, if you're a Wycombe fan, you want to go watch it, we spoke about the overhaul that was in January. And not just the overhaul in January, but you also had a new manager coming in. And we think it's upset sort of the camaraderie within the squad. They're quite a tight-knit squad, Wycombe, and they always were back to the Ainsworth days. Like Bloomfield just kind of continued that sort of legacy going on. And that seems to have been taken apart just a little bit. I know they've still only lost 6 games, but their form has been so erratic since Bloomfield left. And going in probably to a playoff season, probably, is not what you want. You don't want erratic form. Reading, as it's well documented, have that court hearing on Friday, I believe, in terms of they could be booted out the league. We hope that it doesn't. I know they're going towards a sellout this weekend as well. So fair play to all the fans, and hopefully, if you're a Reading fan, for your sake, you get into them playoffs and you can have media coverage of your ownership situation, because Sky will actually have to talk to somebody at the club ahead of the playoffs, and Sky will actually take note of it finally, because they don't seem to be. But the stuffing could be knocked out of them after a defeat, but the run they were on, we know there's no pressure on them. They're a young squad. Their goal difference is only +5. It's the same with Bolton. They're kind of in that issue. The goal difference could be worth an extra point going into the end of the season. It's a really tricky game to call, this one.
I'm really struggling with it.
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this one.
That's sort of along the lines I'm thinking of, not because both sides can't score, just because I think I will have to figure out the stats on this one, and it might take some time to figure out. But the amount of goals in 12:30s seems to be much less. I know we had a 4-0 last time, but the amount of goals in 12:30 seems to be much less than a 3 p.m. kickoff. But that might just be selective choice. I'll go. I kind of back a 1-1 here, but they both like to score, so I'll go 2-2.
Okay, 2-2.
I think, yeah, I think a draw. I feel like I couldn't back a side to win without thinking the other side will win. So
I think if a side was to win, it would be Reading.
Yeah,
personally, I think.
But I think it'll be tight. The other 12:30 is Wrexham versus Burton. For me, this one I really struggle again with this one. Wrexham, they've got a draw more than Burton have in the last 3. Over the last 5 games, Wrexham sits 6th. Burton Albion 15th in the form table. Sorry, that's over the last 5. But Burton, they just seem to have that something about them. And I don't know what it is, but Wrexham's home form is incredible. Burton's away form is mid-table at best. So I don't know. I back Wrexham here. I think it is a home win, but I don't think it'll be easy for them. I think it'll be 3-1. I think it's one of them where it'll be a horrible game, and I think the scoreline will slightly flatter. But I'll go 3-1, I think.
Okay, that's interesting, because Burton have conceded first in 4 of their last 5 league games, and they've scored 11 of their 18 away league goals in the last 30 minutes of matches. So the changes Gary Bowyer's making and the character of the squad, I don't think can be questioned. It's just that have they got the quality to go to the Stock Ray Course ground, or whatever it's called nowadays, something like that. I'm not Welsh, I can't say it. A team that have only conceded 14 goals at home is going to be an incredibly tough ask, regardless of the amount of character in that Burton changing room. I do back Wrexham. I'm going to back Wrexham 2-0, but that's nothing towards Burton, who do have to play some of their relegation rivals towards the end of the season. They've got bigger fish to fry in terms of games, Burton, than going. This is a free hit for them.
I feel like this is one of them where the scoreline is likely to flatter the end result. Stevenage against Crawley. I think if you could ask me for a less attractive game this weekend, I'd struggle to name it to you, although I have just seen one further down the fixture list that might be there. Stevenage against Crawley. Both sides, well, Stevenage just very middling, aren't they? I think 13th feels about right for them. They've really struggled in recent games as well. A draw, a loss, a draw, and then back-to-back defeats against Orient and Stockport. So no harm in that, I suppose. But not scoring as many goals as they. I suppose they went through a flurry where they seemed to get the odd game, scoring 3 goals or whatnot, and they're just not doing that anymore. Are Stevenage? I think that they're just going to struggle towards the end of the season. But Crawley, for me, this is their season again in this game. We've said it before, and they've come back a couple of games later and surprised us. For me, this is their season. They need to win this one. And I reckon that I reckon they've got it in them. I back Crawley in this one. I reckon 2-0. I don't know what do you know what I mean? I don't think if they win this one, that's it, and they'll be safe and they'll pull through. But I do back them to get a result.
Okay, yeah. Crawley have the worst away defence. They've conceded 44 goals, which is 7 more than anyone else, but they have scored 23, which is mid-table. Stevenage's home form, they've conceded 20 and scored 23, which means they've only scored 12 away from home, Stevenage. But in this case, they are at home. They're not a bad side at home, 8 wins, 4 draws and 7 defeats, but they've won 1 of their last 6 at home. And it just seems their season's kind of petering out a bit like it did last year, which is no disgrace, because finishing mid-table in League One with the budgets that are going to be around them this year is another impressive season, I think. They're just a kind of that team you don't like to play, Stevenage. Stevenage were actually without a clean sheet in the last 6 meetings between the sides as well. I think Crawley need the win more, so I'm going to back Crawley as well, but I'm going to back them 2-1. I think Stevenage may score, probably from a set piece, to be honest.
Again, it's one of them that it is important on paper, but I can't get myself excited for the type of football that's going to be played there at all. Leyton Orient against Wigan. Sam, I'll let you have this one. You feel like Orient need the win to stay in the pack. you feel like we're going to need the win to stay away from the pack.
Yeah, 100%. It's a must win in this scenario for Orient now. You could have, if they won on Tuesday, you could have accepted probably a draw from this, because then you get 4 points from your 2 games, which is respectable. But it is now, we're going to need to win near enough every game, and we've still got to play Wycombe, and we've still got to play Huddersfield. So to get into the playoffs is going to be a tough task. I think the most alarming thing is we've got the most defeats in the top half, alongside Barnsley with 16, which does a team with 16, potentially 17, 18 defeats deserve to be in the playoffs at the end of the season? No, not in my opinion. Orient are 7th in the home table, which is pretty good going. They've won 3 and lost 3 of their last 6 home games. Wigan obviously suffered that heartbreak, scrappiness-esque goal, ricochets absolutely everywhere. It's like that Football Manager game that is absolutely scripted, that they will score an 90th minute goal.
Yeah. I've had a few of them.
It's one of the worst goals I think I've ever seen in League One history, that one. They haven't scored in the last 15 minutes of any away league match this season. And they're the league's lowest scorers. So, and Orient have only kept 1 clean sheet in like their last 12 after keeping 13 in 19. So, which is rather alarming as well. I know we've had lots of injuries to defenders, but we've forgotten how to defend.
I mean, it's interesting what stats can tell you, because yes, you've lost 16 games, but you've also drawn 5. No team has drawn. You know, even Birmingham have drawn more than 5 games this season. Like, you have to go down to Bristol Rovers on 6 for the next team, and Bolton also on 6. So it feels like that there is going to be a winner in this game. I back Orient to do it 2-0. I struggle to see. Wigan, to me, have kind of been sleepwalking this whole season. I've not really heard anything about them. It feels like they barely got out of second gear, to be honest. Wigan fans, please let us know what your thoughts on this season are, because to me, this felt like a season where you could kick on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I've not heard anything from anything to do with Wigan at all, really. But
no, they've got one of the best managers in the league now. Not Wigan. Sorry, got one of the best managers in the league with Ryan Lowe in charge. We said at the time that their recruitment was incredibly poor in January, which it was. They lost Taylor Asgard, one of the best creative midfielders in the league. They didn't replace him, really. They didn't replace him with anywhere near the same quality. They brought in a load of youngsters who arguably are top League 2, League 1 level. And they have struggled. They're the league's lowest scorers at the end of the day. It's very difficult to get a team that is the lowest scoring to all of a sudden express themselves and score goals, because that's not how it works. The only thing he could do was make them more solid. But again, they looked solid enough against Bolton until they concede a goal where they can't clear the ball. I think Orient should win, and I will back them. I'll back them 1-0, but that's based on the last 3 performances. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 0-0, to be honest.
Yeah. We'll smash through the next couple of games, because not a huge amount to play for in really any of them. Posh established in mid-table now with a couple of strong performances and that stunning late win against Crawley. Northampton, they will be looking over their shoulders, especially at Burton. To me, they are. I don't know if they're as weak as Bristol Rovers, because they're both, them and Bristol Rovers both winless in 4, but they have got 2 draws in that time. Have Northampton. I think Northampton will be safe, but they have kind of lost the sparkle. For me, I think I can't see them avoiding defeat here or getting anything from this game. I think Posh are just too strong. We'll be looking to head to Wembley with some momentum. I kind of back a 3-0 here.
Yeah, I've gone for 2-0. Northampton actually only have 1 win in 8 with 4 draws in that time, and now are only 4 points above the drop. And a stat you don't want going into playing Peterborough is you've not got a clean sheet in your last 10 league games either. Oof. I mean, the league's 2nd top scorers, I think, third top scorers behind Birmingham and Wycombe. It's not a statistic that you want to read playing one of the best free-flowing attacking teams, especially when they've just won a game in the 90th minute after scoring 4 away from home.
Yeah, very, very worrying for Northampton going into that one. I think alarm bells are ringing, promotion bells ringing for Birmingham. As you said, they could be promoted within the next couple of weeks, really. 3 match days is all it could take, and that's, that it depends on how results go around them, isn't it, really? That they are an incredible side. Our Birmingham City will go down as one of League One's best in history, regardless of what it was that got them there. They are an incredible squad, and obviously they've got the fan base to support that. They've got the attendances as well to support the types of players they've brought in against a Barnsley side that are really just. I'm sorry, Seb, that they are abysmal. They're just, I know you were trying to get everyone to subscribe to the podcast, and I appreciate your work you're doing for that, Seb. But Barnsley are abysmal at this point. If there's a side you want to play now, it's Barnsley, really. Maybe with the exception of Shrewsbury and Bristol Rovers. I can't get excited talking about Barnsley, so I think it's best I don't, and just say that Birmingham will win this 3-0.
3-0. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they obviously sacked Darryl Clark after being up and down, and their form's just got even worse.
Yeah.
Like
they sacked him in the hope that it would shake things up, and it made it even flatter. Yeah,
it's made it even flatter. I couldn't personally. I know their form's been really inconsistent, but I don't think their squad's that good. Like they've got, other than Keeler Dunn, they haven't got a goal scorer. Max Watters isn't a goal scorer. They signed that geezer from Bastia. His goal record was shocking, and he's not done anything since he's came in. They've got no win in 6, no clean sheet in 8, and they're the first to concede in 5 of their last 6. And you're going to a place where they haven't lost at home all season, and they've only conceded 9 goals at that place. Yeah, I'm going to go on the same. I nearly got the 4-0 correct last week with Birmingham.
Are you going to go for it again?
I'm going to go for it again. I'm going for it again. I'm going 4-0 for the second week running.
So
Jay Stansford, if you can score another couple of penalties, yes, please.
We have to be careful with what we say. I quite like Birmingham fans. I've always said it. Huddersfield against Mansfield, battle of the fields. I suppose Huddersfield really uninspirational. Mansfield, I think those back-to-back wins against Barnsley and Bristol Rovers probably will prove to be enough to get them over the line, but I don't think they'll count on it. I think they'll still be going for points here. Huddersfield, though, back at their home place, which I don't know if that's a good thing because they're 10th on the home form table. So, again, not a lot to say about this game. I don't think Huddersfield, they're in desperate need of something, and I don't know if this is where they're going to get it, Sam.
No, they're without a clean sheet in their last 8, and they've lost 4 of their last 5, and they've only won 1 of their last 6 at home. So you couldn't get really much worse in terms of Huddersfield. The squad, I don't think he knows what his best team is. He's playing players out of position, which doesn't help. The fan base after last night's game seemed to absolutely hate the squad. Against a Mansfield side who, while they've been really disappointing in the second half of the season, look like they're going to have another season in League One. They seem to have stopped that rot of losses. They've got a lot of draws. They lost last time out to Charlton, which, I mean, Charlton are one of the best teams in the league at the moment, so that's no bad thing, I suppose. They've scored a quarter of their away goals in the first 15 minutes of the game, so they're fast starters. But they're 8 points clear of the drop of Mansfield with their game in hand next Tuesday. I think Mansfield are safe. I wouldn't actually be surprised if they went to Huddersfield and won. And I need to be different, so I'm going to back them 2-1 to win.
I'm going to go 1-1. The way I can kind of see this going is that stat about scoring like a higher proportion of their away goals in the first 15 minutes. I can kind of see Mansfield going ahead, and then Huddersfield getting a late win or getting a late equaliser or something like that. That's how I can kind of see it going. Moving on then, Shrewsbury against Cambridge. You've written on our preparation sheet here the battle of not finishing bottom, which
yes,
I think that sums it up. It's a game that I think is not going to be very pretty and fun.
You watch this big game of the weekend now.
And do you know what? All if it is, that wouldn't surprise me because they've both got very little to play for. So I don't know. Like now you've said that, I don't know whether it'll be a bit of a scoring frenzy. Cambridge on this is I love stats. Cambridge are what's it called? They're unbeaten in 3. They've drawn all 3 of those games.
Yeah,
they're unbeaten in 3. So I don't know. I
really
don't know.
Part
of me wants to go 0-0 on this because it's interesting. But do you know what? I'll back my guy Michael Appleton. Love your stuff. Love your work, Michael. And I might be biased. He gets a lot of bad rep from Lincoln fans, but he is technically on paper one of our most successful managers ever, getting us to the playoff final. So I'll back Michael Appleton purely because I like him. I'll give him a 2-0 win.
2-0 win. Okay. Well,
It's
Cambridge
purely based on my liking of Appleton, but we'll go.
So Cambridge have scored 16 away goals. Shrewsbury have scored 18 home goals. They've won one of their last 6 at home, won 5 at home all season. Oh, I'll go 1-1.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem very exciting. Bolton against Bristol Rovers, a huge game for both sides. This really 6th against 20th, both of them needing 3 points for different reasons. I think Tuesday, I'm kind of looking a week in advance here. I think Tuesday's a huge night because I think both sides are going to come out of this week with nothing to play for, really. Bolton against Bristol Rovers. I've already got Burton to lose. I've got Bolton to win this one 2-0. I can't see Bristol Rovers offering much away from home. I think 2-0 probably undersells Bolton.
Yeah, it's Bolton obviously got that last gasp winner in scrappy against Wigan. The 17 of their 34 home goals, Bolton have come in the last 30 minutes of matches, so we shouldn't be surprised that they score late winners. Bristol Rovers have no clean sheet in 4 defeats in a row and could obviously be in the bottom 4 next week, so it's all a bit doom and gloom at Bristol Rovers. They're shocking away from home, and Bristol Rovers still have Wrexham, Reading and Blackpool still to play, so their fixture schedule isn't exactly been kind to them either. I agree. I'm going to back your scoreline. I think it will be 2-0 to Bolton as well.
Rotherham, Blackpool, huge game for Blackpool. Rotherham, not a huge amount to play for. We've spoken a lot about Blackpool in recent weeks. Rotherham, obviously, we spoke about them a lot a couple of weeks ago as well. Obviously, sacked Steve Evans, which is a decision that I think we all expected. Cheerio. I think it should have come really much earlier on in the season. But it's just kind of is there that feeling of the shackles are off kind of thing? 2-0 win against Northampton. Whether you'd have expected that anyway at the weekend, I don't really know. I'll go 2-0 Blackpool.
2-0, okay. I've gone for 2-1 Blackpool. Blackpool 5th in the away table, won 5 of their last 6, and they've scored a third of their away goals in the 30th to 45th minute, where Rotherham in that time bracket have only conceded 2. But if you like your previous meeting stat, Rotherham are unbeaten in the last 9 meetings between Rotherham and Blackpool and haven't conceded in the last 3.
It's one of them that I think we know where this is going, but it is also a potential banana skin for Blackpool. For Lincoln this weekend, a very interesting one actually, because they've proved over the past 2 games that they've kind of got what it takes to play against these top teams, to frustrate them with this 4 at the back system. They used to obviously play this 3 at the back system, which is difficult to score against. When you play 4 at the back, it kind of opens it up a bit more. But they've proved that they can do that. There is the loss of Porty O'Connor, but whether that's actually a loss, given I think it gives Lincoln City a way to prepare for next season. He won't be at the club next year. He'll be in the Championship next season. In my opinion, I don't know anything, but I just think the one thing that worries me about is the defender that will have to play this weekend is probably Lewis Montsma, who is a lot more attacking minded as a fullback, I suppose. He can go on those amazing runs and get a bit out of position, which I think Charlton Athletic are more than able to expose. I think it's going to be a really tough game for the Imps. And they are just inconsistent. Lincoln City are just inconsistent. They've won one drawn loss, one. So custom would dictate a draw. So why not? Let's go 1-1. I'll back my side to get a draw.
I've gone 2-0 to Charlton. They're excellent at home, Charlton. Only conceded 12 at home. Both teams have scored in the last 6 of the 8 meetings between the sides, though. So you may well get both teams to score in that one. They're 6 points off second place, Charlton. Don't write them off just yet, but I think with 6 games to go, 6 points is quite a way to climb, considering Wrexham and Wycombe between them have lost less than Leyton, Orient and Barnsley.
And finally, to wrap it up, Exeter against Stockport. Exeter, I mean, it looked like they were having a good end to the season. They've drawn, lost, won the last 4. There is a bit of form there, but very inconsistent in terms of good form, I suppose. Stockport, they look like they're going to finish 5th. I think Charlton are more likely to push further on. I can't see Stockport finishing any higher than 5th, but Stockport fans would have taken playoffs at the end, at the start of the season. I think, maybe naively assume
And losing Louis Barry as well in January probably hasn't helped
them. It's not helped them, but also they've done rather well to not fall off a cliff, as I think a lot of us expected. So this game, I think, is difficult to predict. I think I'm going to go 1-1 in this one. I think Exeter's form is inconsistent, but they are in overall somewhat decent form. So 1-1.
Yeah, I've gone for 2-0 to Stockport. It seems a very similar season for Exeter was last season. Excellent start, terrible middle part of the season, and now they're not going to go down because they found a bit of form. They've scored. There's been less than 2.5 goals in Exeter's game, 7 of the last 8 games, and they've scored 9 of their 26 home goals in the 15 minutes just after half time. For Stockport, 14 of their 24 away league goals have come in the first and last 15 minutes of matches. They start quickly and end strongly.
Well, that is it. That is all the games. If you want a rundown of our predictions, make sure you head over to X, where Sam will be posting all of our predictions and his thoughts throughout the match day on Saturday. Have your say as well. And you never know, we might feature a few of your comments. But thank you very much for listening to this episode of League One Lowdown. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a rating wherever it is that you listen to these podcasts. And we'll see you next time.